You know, when I reviewed these movies, it was a cathartic experience. I was like, hey, at least I'll never have to talk about them again. Here we are. Hello everybody, and welcome to my list of the movies I did not like one little bit throughout this year. This is my list of the worst movies that I saw this year. Now, keep in mind, as with my list of the best movies of the year, this is my personal list. This is only the movies that I found were, you know, just not my cup of tea. And some of them were outright cinematic shit. So I realized there are probably going to be some movies on this list that you're going to be like, but hey, I like that movie. How can it be on that list? Well, it's just because I didn't like it. So please don't take offense if any of these movies were some of your favorites of the year or something like that. There is no judgment here whatsoever. You're perfectly allowed to like any of these movies, maybe except for the bottom three. But without further ado, I'm gonna throw it over to some honorable mentions, starting with... So here was the movie that was supposed to kickstart an entire franchise a la the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was supposed to shoe in the Universal Dark Universe, but yeah, kind of failed, didn't it? Now this was one of those movies that, yeah, some people dug it. I really didn't. I just found it kind of boring. I thought the whole plot with three Chuckies was a little bit stupid. And yeah, this was probably for me the worst of the Child's Play series. Then we come to the 8th installment of a franchise that's just been getting progressively worse. And yeah, I went in thinking maybe, just maybe, a miracle might happen and this one might actually be good. It wasn't. Yeah, look, this movie just really didn't work for me on any level. I didn't find anything really of merit in the film. There were a whole bunch of confusing little subplots and things that just detracted from the main plot. And there were elements that should have paid off at the end that were completely overlooked. And yeah, I thought the movie was a bit of a mess. I didn't find it funny. And yeah, it wasn't that good. I don't remember anything that happened in this movie. I know I saw it. I know it had Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson in it, but if you asked me anything about the plot, seriously, I wouldn't be able to tell you what happened, and that's not the sign of a good movie now, is it? But here are 10 movies that I thought were even worse than that, starting with number 10. Now, I know this is a movie that a lot of people have liked, and I totally get it. That is totally fine. I am not, like I said, there's no judgment here. You're allowed to like this movie. Me? Nah, I didn't. I thought the whole blend of fantasy and, you know, gritty cop stuff, like action stuff, just didn't blend together. The performances were very meh. I thought the plot was confusing. There were so many things I didn't like about it. I just could not wait for it to end. This is another movie that I couldn't remember. I saw it in my list of movies that I've seen throughout the year, and I was like, what was that movie? Funnily enough, it wasn't until last night I popped in a Blu-ray and the trailer for it came up, and I was like, oh yeah, that was that movie that tried to rip off Alien and failed miserably. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting this movie to deliver anything good, and oh man, it didn't. It wasn't scary. The plot was boring. It just offered nothing new to the Ring mythology. And yeah, I probably could have spent the rest of my life without ever having seen it. I think this might have been the first movie I saw in 2017, and yeah, I was hoping that that wasn't like an omen for how movies were gonna be, because oh my god, it was so bad. From what I remember, yeah, there was this big plot twist in the film that just kind of made the rest of it make no sense, and it was just a terrible, terrible movie. I also remember sitting in the theater just really, really wishing I could get out of there and just go home. Just, you know, stop watching it. Yeah, bad movie. I mean, come on, did anybody actually really expect this movie was gonna be any good? And I've just realized that Ruby Rose has appeared in a couple of movies on this list so far, so I'm starting to think maybe she's kind of a curse. I hated this movie so much. From the fact that they just got the characters completely wrong, the plot was just mind-numbingly boring, and the fact that they just turned Harley Quinn into this sexualized character who was complaining that men treated her like a piece of meat, and then resorting to fucking fart jokes. Pretty much everything about this festering turd I absolutely hated, and I'm starting to get angry now, so I'm just gonna calm down and move on to the next. So aside from the fact that the Resident Evil movies, you know, just haven't really been that good, well, you know, ever. They've been getting progressively worse as the series goes on, but my god. I actually vividly remember the day my friend and I went and saw this film just because of how bad it was. Not just in terms of the usual things like story, acting, you know, all that stuff, but the editing in this film. It was the worst film I've ever seen in terms of editing. It was just so lightning fast. Like every cut was like half a second long, and this movie was probably the first movie in history that actually gave me a headache watching it. And here's a movie that many critics and reviewers have placed it at their #1 worst movie of the year. I came close to doing so. The only reason I didn't put this absolute turd of a film higher on the list is because it was a little bit shorter, well actually a lot shorter than the movie I've got at #2. So look, I would actually rather watch this one than the one I've got at #2, which is the only good thing that came out of this movie was the review that I did, which a lot of people said was the best review I've ever done, and I had so much fun making it, but oh my god, this movie was so painful to get through. Apart from the fact that it seemed like it went for 5 hours long, the plot didn't make sense. I didn't know what was going on. Just the characters, the performances were so bad. Anthony Hopkins absolutely sucked in this movie. There was not one single thing that I liked about it. However, I would actually rather watch Transformers: The Last Knight than this next film. Now, I only watched this movie a few days ago in order to see where it would actually rank on my list of the worst movies of 2017. I kind of thought, look, maybe it might be down the tail end, you know, maybe about a #8 or 7 or so. But wow. Wow, it was so bad. It is possibly the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. This movie sucked so bad. And I mean that on every single level in filmmaking. Story, performance, casting, costumes, why not? Cinematography, editing, directing, everything was bad about this movie. I'm actually kind of glad I watched it in a way, just to, I mean, it shocked me how bad it was, and Yeah, my god, it was really painful to get through. Alrighty, so that concludes my list of the worst movies that I saw this year. There were other movies, other bad movies that probably would have made it onto the list, but I didn't go see them. You know, movies like Baywatch, Chips, and a few others that I've seen appear on other reviewers' worst of 2017 lists. I just didn't go see them. I'm still at a point where I'm paying money to go see movies, just like all of you guys, and if a movie comes along that just gets really bad reviews, I'm really not inclined to actually pay money to go see it. So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys. What were your worst movies that you saw this year? I'm sure there's gonna be a whole bunch that weren't on my list, so let me know what yours were. And suddenly my cat is in the shot because she just walked into the room and wouldn't stop meowing, and yeah, I think she just really wanted to be in this video. So anyway, let me know what your worst movies of 2017 were. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you so much for supporting my channel throughout the year. You guys are absolutely amazing. Drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with my cat. And you. See you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.
Not just in terms of, you know, the usual things like story, acting, etc., but the editing. Putty. Seriously? Are you just gonna stand there talking? Really? Yeah, that's what you're doing, is it? My cat.